Hey there, it's Paul Mark, owner and founder of Transcend Coffee, bringing you our 5th video podcast. And today we're going to talk about, or show you actually, more than talk about, cupping. It's something that we do on a daily basis around here. We cup everything that we roast. And it's a pretty important aspect of what Transcend does in terms of evaluating coffee on an ongoing basis so that we can identify the best coffees available that we can at least come across in terms of flavor and unique characteristics, so that we can bring you flavorful and dynamic coffees to enjoy both at home and here at the shop. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit today, or show you actually the processes involved in cupping coffee. It's a pretty simple thing in all reality. It really comes down to just tasting coffee, but tasting in a unique way, in a way that is attentive to a number of different features and factors that we encounter in various forms with the coffee, including dry aroma or dry fragrance, wet aroma, then getting down to the actual flavor that the coffee imparts in our mouth. I wanted to talk a little bit about tasting. There's lots on the web about tasting. It's a thing that is dynamically changing in terms of the science of tasting and flavor and aroma perception. It's something that's unique. I find it very interesting. We taste with our tongues about essentially five different things. We taste sweet, sour, bitter, salt, and now umami is one of the things that we taste. Sort of the savory flavors often found in Asian foods and oils. So those are the five basic things that we can taste. A pretty limited ability to actually evaluate things if we strictly rely on our tongue. But we have a much more dynamic processing ability, which is our olfactory sensory abilities, our nose. And that's what gives us an ability to really experience a lot of diversity, a lot of dynamic aromas and flavors in not only the foods that we eat, but also the things that we drink. And coffee is no exception. And with coffee, we really rely on our nose, our olfactory senses, our olfactory bulb, to help us evaluate coffee. Great, as we've talked about in the past in our episode on freshness, those volatile gases really contribute a lot of flavor and aroma to our taste experience with coffee. And so when we're evaluating the flavor of coffee, we really do rely a lot on and use our noses a lot to help us really narrow down and describe in more detail what we're experiencing in our mouth. And so when we taste coffee, for evaluative purposes, we slurp pretty violently so that the liquid is aerated and allows our noses to get into the picture as well. We have actually 340 receptors in our olfactory bulb, which allows us to experience aroma in a much more expansive way than we can ever experience with our tongue. And of those 340 receptors, the scientists tell us that they've only mapped 2 of those 340. So there's a lot to learn about how we perceive things with our nose, with our sense of smell. Needless to say, it's a really important part of what we do here at Transcend, and it's a very integral part of evaluating the quality of coffee on a daily basis around here. Smell is a huge factor in how we really perceive coffee. So that's probably all I'm going to say for now. We might do a more expansive video blog in the future on taste and flavor, show you the flavor wheel and the aroma wheel. But for now, I just wanted to sort of set up what you're going to see on the video. It's going to be basically video of a cupping that we do in the lab, with me doing a voiceover, sort of explaining what you see, so that you can have a better understanding of how we go about evaluating not only the coffees that we serve to you every day, but also the coffees that get sent to us as samples, and where we have to make a decision of whether to buy that coffee or not. So enjoy the video. If you have any questions, give us an email, give us a call. You can do that too. But anyways, enjoy the video. Hopefully you find this helpful and instructive. When cupping, one of the first things that we do is evaluate the dry fragrance of the ground coffee. We're grinding about 3.3 or 13.3 grams of coffee and putting in about 8 ounces of water. And in evaluating the dry fragrance, we're looking for some of those floral and fruity and sweet fragrances that characterize, at least for our profile and for our tastes, an exceptional coffee. And so that we're looking for fruit characteristics and sweetness, depending on the varietal and the location where the coffee comes from, some nuttiness. The more fruit that we get and the more sweetness that we get and the florals that we're able to identify at this stage of the process, the better. At least that's my opinion. Once we've evaluated the dry fragrance, then we start pouring water to prepare the brewed coffee. The coffee is going to steep for 4 minutes, and in the process of that steeping, we also will go ahead and smell the steeped coffee or the steeping coffee while it's being steeped. We're not really concerned with giving a formal score or paying too much attention to the aromas that we get off the coffee while it's steeping, but we are looking for more indication, a continuing indication of quality in that process and in that evaluation, where we sense, hopefully start to smell some nice caramel flavors and molasses, more sweetness, some nuttiness perhaps, and that will give us just more indication of the quality of the coffee. Essentially, a great coffee will be consistent in its evaluation of aroma and flavor. So what we smell at dry, and we smell while the coffee is steeping a bit, and then we smell also when we break the crust and we start to evaluate the wet aroma of the coffee, those should be consistent in a great coffee. And so what you see us doing now is breaking the crust. The coffee's steeped for 4 minutes, and we are wanting to evaluate the wet aroma now. This is usually given a formal score if we're scoring the coffee out of 100 points or whatever. That's sort of the SEA scoring format, or a lesser score if you're using Cup of Excellence scoring. But regardless, we're evaluating the coffee, the wet aroma at break, and looking for consistency and dynamic aromas as well. Once we've evaluated the wet aroma, then we skim the remaining grounds off the top of the coffee and prepare that so that we can start to evaluate the flavor of the coffee when we start slurping the coffee and tasting the coffee. We typically taste with a silver spoon, because we know that stainless steel will impart a bit of a flavor, not much, but it does. And so we're starting to evaluate the flavor of the coffee now, and we do so by violently slurping a little bit of coffee out of the spoon, and in doing that, we aerate the liquid in our mouths, giving us a better opportunity to evaluate the flavor, not just with our tongues, as I mentioned earlier on in the podcast, but also allowing our olfactory senses, our nose, get involved in the process. This will give us a much more dynamic indication of the flavors in the cup. And again, as I said earlier, we're looking for consistency. So if we smell florals and fruit in the dry and wet aromas, we're hoping to taste those same florals and fruit in the brewed coffee, which gives an indication of an exceptional cup of coffee. Right. Well, hopefully that was a helpful and instructive video. It gives you a brief overview of sort of how we go about cupping every day. As always, you can find us on the web, www.transcendcoffee.com. Send us an email, provide us feedback, give us ideas. We're always interested in hearing back from you. And until next time and the next video blog, have a great day. Drink less more often. See you next time. Bye.